Ministranci is out on Amazon Prime following a theatrical run over here in Poland. This is a Polish drama written and directed by Piotr Domalewski. Story takes place in a small Polish town and follows a group of teenage altar boys who become disillusioned and disappointed with their local church's disconnect between what is being preached and what is being done, in the sense that the money collected for the needs of the poor might be skimmed by a priest and not used effectively. So these boys take matters into their own hands and begin to steal the money and redistribute it to the people they think are most in need. So I think it's certainly an interesting premise that in the end feels a bit disappointing in execution, mainly because once it's laid out, the story follows a very expected path and hits all the beats you think it will. There was very little in it that made me go, "Wow, I wasn't expecting that." And sometimes a movie can be predictable yet still hit you emotionally, which is not what I think happens here. I was fairly indifferent to the events portrayed in the film. I haven't really connected with any of the characters in a meaningful way, which brings me to the second problem, which is that the main character, Philip, is written too much as some sort of weird quasi-Jesus-like figure that, despite being a troubled teenager, is somehow always morally impeccable, always spouting stiffly written lines about justice and the right thing to do and the Christian morality. And believe me, a lot of those lines are very unrealistically written. Like, no kid this age would ever say these things out loud, and that made me roll my eyes. So you have a bit of a weirdo protagonist with whom it's kind of hard to truly connect. And then every single adult character, with the exception of maybe the old lady who makes cookies one time, is kind of awful. There are no positive adult characters in the entire film, nobody to sympathize with or feel for or even enjoy the presence of. One priest steals money, the other one is a pushover who allows that and who also unfairly pressures the altar boys about the lost competition. The mother of the main character is a depressed alcoholic. The father of the second guy is completely disconnected and absent. The girl love interest has an abusive dad and a completely docile mother. I mean, really, it feels so bleak. Everyone is not just flawed, but pretty awful. Everyone seems to be poor and struggling. Everyone is perpetually sad or angry or depressed, which I don't think represents reality at all. I don't think small town Poland is as universally depressing as portrayed here. Finally, I have a problem with the performances, as I usually do in Polish movies, which is that most of them feel wooden and stiff. And part of that is, of course, the writing, which tends to be very theatrical and unnatural, but part of it is just the actor's delivery. The worst offender is Kamila Urzędowska, who was very good in Peasants. But in here, I mean, she's supposed to be playing a hopeless, depressed alcoholic who doesn't even get out of bed. Yet every scene she looks like a model. Great makeup, beautiful face, and she says her lines in such a flat, monotone way that she was just putting me to sleep. Strangely, the best actor in the film is Tobiasz Wajda, the kid who plays Philip. But in his case, I think he's being failed by material because, as convincing as he is in the role, as I said earlier, the things he is forced to say sound unnatural anyway. Now, there are some interesting things in here. I think the setting of small town Poland is a bit unique to all the Warsaw-based local movies. I think the critique of modern church as a husk of what it aspires to be is accurate. I think it is a fascinating angle to explore, to see how vigilante help can be misguided, which comes into play in that one small scene of a guy, one of the boys sponsored, suddenly using the money to buy alcohol. But there are minor glimpses of interesting stuff that are sprinkled in an otherwise disappointing movie that feels too preachy and too depressing at the same time, that has an over-the-top climax, and that suffers from the common Polish cinema problem of being too much like theater and too little like convincing real life. I wasn't wowed by it.